Recently, I watched a 1950s movie, Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, and I hadn't watched it for many, many years. I was really struck by the scene where, Charlton Heston plays Moses, and he goes up on Mount Sinai. He's feels called to go search for the Lord of Abraham, the Lord of his fathers. And it was interesting because, there's the burning bush, if you remember. And the Lord speaks to Moses from the burning bush, the bush that does not burn up or does not evaporate, is not consumed by the fire. And so he tells him that, he will support and free his people, convince the Pharaoh to let his people go. And so Moses starts to trust him a little bit. And then he says, well, when I go back and tell the people that you, the Lord, has sent me, they're going to ask me, what is his name? And the Lord says, I am that I am. Go and tell them that I am sent you. So I was wondering, I thought, wow, that sounds very much like the non-dual traditions, the contemplative non-dual traditions of Zen Buddhism, Advaita Vedanta, mystical Christianity, or devotional Sufism. And so I went and found my father gave me a King James version of the Bible when I was 12 days old, and I still have it. And I thought, is this what was really in the Bible, or did they put this in there? So I went, and the book of Exodus is where Moses goes up on Mount Sinai for the first time to speak with the Lord. And so this is the direct quote from the King James Version of the Bible. And Moses said unto God, behold, when I come down unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the God of your fathers hath sent me unto you. And they shall say to me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, and this is in all caps, I am that I am. And he said, thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am, hath sent me unto you. And then in the movie, Moses goes down off the mountain and talks to his wife-to-be and says, I have seen the Lord. He had talked to me. He is the Spirit in all beings, the light of eternal mind. So mind here, in that sense, you really get when watching the movie, I really got a feeling of this is not the intellectual mind, some omnipresent intellectual mind. This is mind as the Zen teacher Wang Po meant, the one mind beyond which nothing exists. That which is one without a second. The absolute that's all-pervading, everlasting, and is filled with love for all beings. So it was interesting, to see that this is the quote from the Bible that is very, very mystical, to me anyway. What I've been studying in these contemplative traditions, very much about the world of oneness, the world beyond our comprehension, and the all-pervading Spirit that is always right here, right now. So the phrase, I am. There's a great Hindu master, Nisargadatta, who says, Spiritual practice is staying with this sense of I am. He says the I is always twofold. In other words, sometimes in Vedanta they will use the phrase capital I, capital I. I in terms of the sense of being a separate being, the small I that we relate to as our personal identity. And then the other capital I is the I of spirit. It can be the capital I or the EYEI of spirit, which is our true identity. And they use the two capital letters close together to signify that they're really one and the same. And that awareness, our personal awareness, kind of when we have progressed further enough along the path where our true identity is becoming the ground of our being, and we relate from that ground of our being primarily, rather than from being confined by the personal idea of identity, the personal idea the idea we have of being a separate person, a separate personality. So when we have learned to see the personal as a reflection of the absolute, of the big I, we can move between both of them. And we see that everything, all of our experience is a gift from the absolute, the I am. Not I am this as an object of thought, or that as an object of form, or experience as objects of sights or sounds. But that which is the ground and that which makes possible all experience, all objective experience possible. So Nisargadatta says, the am is always there. I am is always there, whether there's an I or not. In other words, whether the small I asserts itself or not. The am, not I am this or that, but just the being of being. That timeless infinity. That which levels all playing fields. That's our true identity. So there was a conversation Nisargadatta had with one of his disciples who asked him, what about the certainty? I mean, there needs to be certainty. Now, certainty is, for most of us, it's a concept. It's a mental formation. And so most of us get caught in the idea of certainty, like we want to be certain about something. In terms of the absolute, in terms of our actual being, there's nothing we can focus on to be certain about. But Nisargadatta, instead of answering that way, I just gave a kind of conceptual interpretation of the question, or in a possible answer to the question. He didn't answer that way. He said, quite right. But in this sense, certainty comes about from fearlessness. There's a sense of fearlessness that is so new and is so deeply held and felt as one's own, not as a possession for a separate self, but as the actual ground and all-pervading presence of our being. He says it's like loving one's child. How can you doubt it? So as a father, that struck me deeply because, yes, how can I doubt it? How can I doubt? I can't doubt that I love my children. There's no doubt. Is there doubt about being fearless? Yes. Yes. So he also, Nisargadatta also said, it takes the form of courage. The certainty is a matter of courage. And that type of courage can lead to fearlessness. So probably all of us, me included, we're still in the stage of being courageous, having courage. Courage means being willing to stand present to whatever is presenting itself to us, even though we're afraid. So we're not talking about a denial of fear, we're talking about an acknowledgement of the fear that's there. Being willing to be open and have exposed our fear. And then being really willing to stay present to the fear, exploring, what is this fear? So I am that I am. The small I will always have some fear in the presence of the big I am that I am. The timeless infinity that levels all playing fields. Any ideas we have about being special, about being better or worse than others, are completely dissolved in the overwhelming actuality of this I am that I am. It is the power that moves the stars, that moves the galaxies. What power does the little small I, basically a bundle of thoughts, twisted around with different types of perceptions, feelings, thoughts, sights and sounds, what power does that small I have compared to the ground of all that experience, which is the timeless infinity and is the power behind all creation, giving rise to all creation? What if that power was the power driving us to realizing what we actually are? What if we allow that power, rather than struggling with these little ideas we have of I? The I or the ego is just the movement of the mind saying, this is me, this is mine. The real I am is always here. The real I am will dissolve our fears, absorb our fears. As we begin to trust it, we begin to experience the peace of the here and now that is here. It's all grace. And sometimes grace takes the form of personal effort. It feels like personal effort, right? To face our fears, to be courageous, and stand present to the fears we have of death. It's always now. We're always here and it's always now. And when we get older, we realize that since that's true, when we die, when we drop the body, or when we drop attachment to our personal ideas of who we are, it's going to be now. When we die, it will be now. when we find timeless infinity, the love of timeless infinity, it will be now.